Hey, Sound Engraver here. Today we're going to be establishing tempo in SuperCollider. Last week we developed a bit of a sequencer for our kick synth using our following classes: Pbind and Pbindef. So you can hear with these two instances that SuperCollider has already set for itself a tempo, and that tempo is defaulted at 60 beats per minute, and that will always be the case until we have SuperCollider evaluate something new for us. In order to do that, we have to refer to this class here called TempoClock, and you can see it also has some siblings, AppClock and SystemClock, but all of which actually are inherited from the main abstract class clock. But I have not seen either of these put to use, and if you're just working on tempo and quantization, TempoClock will suffice. So let's go ahead and get that set up. For TempoClock, we do need a name or a variable. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the global variable t for TempoClock. And here you can already see that it's expecting a few things. And tempo being the first in bold is really the only thing we need to establish tempo. So let's say I wanted to run the kick at 110 beats per minute. I simply go 110 over 60 and evaluate that. From there, I'm just going to go ahead and copy these two models, Pbind and Pbindef, adding one thing, and that is the global variable t, or our tempo clock. So we should be able to hear the kick going faster now. Sounding good. And also adding our tempo clock here to the play message in Pbindef. Pretty straightforward, right? Nice and simple. From there, we can change our tempo, maybe to something slower. And doing Cmd+Period to stop our Pbindef. And there you have it. There's not much to it. It's as you can see, pretty straightforward. So let's just say I wanted to, change the release and ramp back up again. Oh no, we have an error. So I ran into this, and thanks to Eli Fieldsteel's video on TempoClock, I wouldn't have known the solution. But essentially, this whole content dump is really because of this main receiver here, which is TempoClock. This essentially means something has failed because SuperCollider does not recognize TempoClock. It's no longer in its memory banks. And how can that be? We evaluated it. Well, that evaluation of TempoClock is actually terminated once you do the Cmd+Period, that hard stop that you would apply here for Pbindef. So once that's done, it's terminated. SuperCollider no longer remembers it. So in order for TempoClock, for SuperCollider to keep evaluating TempoClock or have TempoClock stay evaluated, we have to add a message and a condition. Real simple. The message is going to be permanent, and be sure to include permanent with this underscore. And then we're going to establish a condition, either true or false, for our tempo clock here. If it is true, that means it will permanently stay evaluated. False would have it be as we've just seen it here, where with a hard command stop, the tempo clock will be eliminated from SuperCollider's memory. So we're just going to go ahead and evaluate that as true. And we should have it up and running again. And you can change the tempo any way you want as long as it's remained evaluated. And also for Pbindef. Hard stop. And again. And there you have it. Now I want to give you a little bit of a disclosure here. I'm quite surprised that Pbindef just read it as it was and outputted what we just heard. Sometimes Pbindef will not work. Your kick synth for in this structure here, sometimes it won't be reevaluated, and then you'd have to close the document, save and close it, and ramp it back up. But it looks like we're all good here, so we'll evaluate at 200. I'm glad it behaved nicely for you. I think it knows. I think SuperCollider knows it's being recorded and being put on YouTube. So yeah, that's basically it. That's how you establish tempo using TempoClock. So to avoid any headaches, just always be sure that TempoClock remains evaluated. Now, if you also wanted a visual cue, like let's say you had a musical score to a live performance using Pbind and Pbindef and all of that, we can in fact include a visual cue for our TempoClock. Not much. It's just we're just going to add a task scheduler, if you will. This method is known as schedjabs. And we're going to go ahead and call it for our TempoClock. Beat, we're going to use the variable t, and we're going to go ahead and use the next bar message. I've only used this model, so I'm quite comfortable with it. And for our item, we're going to call out our TempoClock again using beats and posting it on our post window here. And I'm going to go, excuse me, not that, I'm going to go ahead and post every beat, and it should look like this. Oh, it's quite fast because I forgot I put it at 200 beats per minute. So there we are. You can also change it to every 4 beats. You can reevaluate it at 80 again. Sometimes it'll do those float numbers depending on where in the grid SuperCollider lines it up. I just ignore it. I kind of like seeing the visual TempoClock kind of scale upstream. So there you have it. That's the basics in TempoClock, and I don't use it beyond that extent that I've shown you here. And in the following video, when I include more percussion like snare and light sounds and maybe adding some delay lines and panning, I'll go ahead and show you how I quantize in TempoClock as well, so you'd be able to hear it and see it at work there. So again, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and if you have any comments, any feedback, I'd love to know in the comments below. And until next time, thank you for watching.